Hey, yo, what's the deal? Miss your boy Tag from Pro Wrestling Tag, you know what I mean? As of this recording, it is 10:48 p.m., February 17th, 2026, but the upload time to this is either 11:30 p.m. or 11:45 p.m. I mean, more than likely it's going to be 11:45 p.m. that I upload this, you know what I mean? And this is the second and last video of the day. And of course, earlier today, I have mentioned my thoughts about Chris Jericho, right? And and how I think that he would be the man behind the mystery box, right? Right, but of course, I had a feeling that someone was going to pour cold water into that report, but there was something interesting that came out, right? There was something very interesting that actually came out, okay? In regards to Chris Jericho and his future with AEW, right? So according to Sean Ross Sapp from Fightful, Chris Jericho's contract is actually frozen. You know what I mean? Because he took time off from all of the projects that he's done, right? From all the projects that he's done and shit, right? So he's basically, getting that time put on his schedule and whatnot, right? But I mean, that's fucking stupid. You know what I mean? He even said, and there was, it was reported that he was open to a WWE return, right? But, and I don't believe this part, that there would be fear that he would have to scale back his commitments and stuff. I don't buy that one bit. His outside projects, I don't buy that one bit. I think that's just, fight for saying bullshit. So Chris Jericho might not be the man in the mystery box, right? But if it isn't him, right, then who is it? Now, I did say earlier today that it might not be Danhausen because Danhausen suited for NXT. However, I found out that his contract is actually up on sometime in February, right? And he could be the man behind, the mystery box. It's a possibility, right? It's a possibility. Let me go back to Chris Jericho for a minute, okay? He's basically stuck in Guantanamo Bay because the cruise that he's done, right? The cruise that he's done, he didn't bring no AEW talents and such. He didn't bring no AEW talents whatsoever in that cruise. None, period. None. So he basically kind of distanced himself away from AEW. He's kind of distanced himself away from All Elite Wrestling, right? But like I said, if it's not him, then more than likely it could be Danhausen, which is surprising because, that's another thing too. So they said something about rare exceptions in terms of people being let go out their contract, right? And they use Powerhouse Hobbs. So, yeah, basically, it looks like Chris Jericho might not be the person behind the mystery box. Who knows? So if it's not him, then basically it's Danhausen. At first I said it wasn't earlier, but it seemed like the reports kind of indicated. But going back to what I said about Chris Jericho, right? I mean, Chris Jericho knew that he was going to have time tacked onto his deal and such, right? I mean, he knew that. Now I don't know how long his deal was up with AEW. I don't see him back in AEW at all. I don't. I truly, honestly don't. I don't because, his last appearance with AEW was shit with that learning tree gimmick, and the fans turned on him. They turned on him. They turned on Jericho. You know what I mean? So yeah, he's basically done, but I don't see him going back to AEW. I don't. I think, me personally, I think it might be, if it's not Chris Jericho, who's behind the box, if not, and yes, he's still on the roster page, but again, he's, his contract is frozen. It's frozen. So he basically has time tacked on to his deal, right? And we didn't hear anything about him signing back with AEW and Tony Khan and shit. So yeah, he's done with AEW, but I think it's just a matter of when. It's not even a matter of if, but when. Now, I'll tell you one person who definitely won't go to AEW, and I know the sickos are pissed about this. AJ Styles. So, AJ Styles had his final match of his career at the Royal Rumble against Gunther, right? Where if he lost to Gunther, his career would be over. And that's what happened, right? He lost to Gunther, and he's going to put the gloves down, and then he picked it back up, right? And then he did his... he didn't do that. No, he did his phenomenal hand signal, right? And then, remember, he was on Stephanie McMahon's podcast, and she asked him about, about retirement, and she asked him, do you see yourself coming back? Because everyone who says they're retired, right, they wound up coming back, right? And one thing led to another. He said never say never, right? So you would think that's the end of it. But now, something happened on Raw last night where it makes you think that maybe he swerved the shit out of everybody, right? So they're actually doing a tribute show to Chris Jericho, to AJ Styles on next week's show, which is going to be at Atlanta, Georgia, which basically he's from. He's from Gainesville, Georgia, right? And it's going to be a tribute show. Now, one would think that, okay, if he's retired, right, why the fuck would they do a tribute show after his final match? That doesn't make sense. And then after the Stephanie McMahon podcast, that doesn't make fucking sense. Why the fuck would they have a tribute for AJ Styles? What I think is going to happen is Gunther's probably going to come out with this tribute and fuck it up. And then it'll make AJ come back and wrestle Gunther at WrestleMania. So that's basically his way of coming back. Basically swerving everybody, saying that, oh, well, he never was, and the AEW, damn, she got a fat ass. He never was going to go to AEW to begin with. Anyway, AJ Styles was never going to go to All Elite Wrestling. All this shit was basically a fucking swerve to piss you motherfuckers off. You know what I mean? That's basically what it was. That's basically what the fuck it was. You think that AJ was actually, come on, he was never going to go to All Elite Wrestling. I heard someone say, oh, well, he's going to get a Hall of Fame induction, and that's it. Yo, you not thought about something. I just realized there hasn't been any announcements for the Hall of Fame. There's not been any fucking announcements for this year's Hall of Fame. It's very odd, right? It's extremely odd that there has not been any announcements. Because usually in January, they will announce who's going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. Nobody said anything. Nobody said nothing, which is very odd. But anyway, yeah, I thought that was very weird that, that they would do a tribute show, but no, I mean, that they would announce a tribute show for AJ Styles, right? Almost as a goodbye. Come on, that makes no sense. That makes absolutely no sense, because where's John Cena's tribute? You know what I mean? He retired, right? Where's Bill Goldberg's tribute? He retired, right? So my guess is that AJ Styles might have signed a new deal with WWE, and maybe he never wanted to leave. He never wanted to go to AEW because he knows it's bullshit over there. It's bullshit. So He's like, fuck it. I'm coming right back. Or I never had a thought in my mind of going over there. Like, they'll throw me money, but there's, it's nothing there. There's basically nothing fucking there. There's nothing there. There's nothing there. Right? So, there you go. Yeah, man. There's nothing there. But anyway, guys, I'm about to be out. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully there's some news. You know what I mean? There should be some news and shit, going into tomorrow. And I'm going to holler at y'all. Peace.